This is my 1950 McCormick W6. I bought this in October of 2024 at the George Rice International Auction. The guy had a whole mess of nice tractors, I'd say around 50 or so, and this one kind of caught my eye. Now this video is a little different in that I really haven't done anything to this tractor yet. This is kind of just looking over it and seeing things that I believe it will need. I have a couple other projects ahead of it, but it was such a nice tractor I decided to buy it. So I have noticed a few things that it needs. One of the weirdest things, which I can't understand, in the oil pan, there's actually a grease fitting in this hole right here. I put a pipe plug in it for now. I'm hoping that nobody pumped the oil pan full of grease. I don't know why there would be a hole there. Normally there would just be these two petcocks like you see here for the low and the high level on the oil. So I'm kind of concerned about that, and I don't really know what the thinking was behind that. It does have a magneto, and it actually seems to be working fairly well. One of the things I will have to do is this magneto probably need a new cap. Probably have to do plug wires, and the wiring leaves a little to be desired. It does have an alternator up there. I don't really know what's going on with that bracket. It's a little interesting. That'll probably need some attention. The front tires are pretty good. I did notice while driving it that the toe-in adjustment is off a fair bit, and it's actually towed out. It's a little difficult to drive it right now. It does have a nice belt pulley on it. Rear tires, they're 16/9/30s. They're not in the greatest condition, but I think the biggest issue is the tubes. They do leak a little bit, so I'll probably have to change the tubes on it. When I got it, the axle seals were leaking pretty bad, and it's kind of dripping down on the tires. You can see some spots there. But after driving it, I drove it about, 10-mile drive on some gravel roads. It actually stopped leaking, so I don't know if it was just from sitting so long and they needed to be, lubricated again. But that seems to kind of fixed itself for now. I did notice that this seat is different than nothing I've seen before. Usually there's like a pipe mount seat and there's a large spring in the front. I did ask a question on a forum and basically figured out that this is called a Joyrider seat. So this was an aftermarket seat. You could actually pull out on the spring-loaded thing and flip the pan up. Then you'd be able to sit here, or stand, I should say, while you're driving. It is going to need some work too. There's a lot of play in that pivot there. Kind of leans to the left a little, so I'll have to work on that. One thing I noticed is a lot of the tractors there, he had golf balls for throttle knobs. That's kind of interesting. Also over there on the clutch pedal, it's kind of common on these W series tractors. You get a lot of side-to-side wear, and even on some of the M's. So people will put like an angle iron there to kind of keep the clutch pedal straight. You see someone's boot was rubbing a fair amount there on the fender. On the drawbar, you can see it's done a lot of work in its day in this sliding drawbar, and the rear end here is worn pretty bad. I'll probably weld that up at some point. I did make a quick slow-moving vehicle sign just for driving around. That way people see you. If I ever do take this, off the property. It does have a rear light, and all the front lights work as well. See, the fenders aren't too beat up. They're a little cracked. I put some fender washers there just to kind of support that. It was kind of flopping around there. And this side is kind of screwed up. Again, I just put a little bracket on there temporarily to secure the fender. You see the tires are pretty cracked, but I think they'll be fine for what I'm gonna do with this. One thing I did do so far, it didn't have a battery box lid, so I found one on eBay from Farmall M. So that bolted right on. I did kind of redo the battery cables a little bit and added a little charging hookup there. I like to put trickle chargers on my tractors whenever I let them sit for a while. And other than that, I really didn't do much to it other than I changed all the grease fittings and greased the tractor, checked the fluids. Again, I don't want to do too much to this until I drive it around some and kind of get to know it a little better. It did have these flag holders on the front. It almost looks like they were made out of conduit. I'm not sure. It's a pretty neat idea, so I threw some quick flags in there. As far as the sheet metal, it's pretty straight, and the grill looks really nice. There's not really any dents anywhere in it. And when I was at the auction, it started up and it ran, very nicely, and that's kind of part of the reason I wanted to buy it. And I think mainly this thing's just been sitting for a while, because the more I've run it here in the last few weeks, it's really starting to, come around and run pretty good. So start it up, it's in neutral, pull that out, give it a little throttle. It is pretty cold today. I got my old ugly orange coat on, but so again, when I get more time, I'm probably going to go through and take this one back home and give it some attention. But for now, it runs pretty well, and I'd like to, like I said, just drive it around and kind of figure out what it needs first. So again, this is a 1950 McCormick W6. Where I live in Pennsylvania, this is not a very common tractor. Don't quote me on the numbers, but I believe they made around 290,000 Farmall M's, and then they made only around 26,000 of the W6. So this is basically the standard version of a Farmall M. This more so would have been for out in like the Great Plains, like wheat country, for pulling implements out there. So for around here, it's kind of an unusual tractor. Again, I wanted to buy it just because it's similar to my Farmall M. So this is it. I'll probably make another video someday when I do some more work to it. Also, real quick, these are these chargers I use. This would be a 12 volt one. I also have them for 6 volt. You just plug them into the outlet, and then they all use this universal hookup style. They work pretty good.